the horrible story of the little Meats, M-E-A-T-S. Mrs. Dolores Catapum de la Garza was old, ugly, a nasty person, and she smelled of caca. Poop. This woman was so ugly that her friends called her Lolita Stomach. Lolita had a taco stall in the market. Lolita always had a little box of rotten meat, which she gave to children, and then they had a stomachache. She didn't like children at all, unlike moi. One morning, very early, Lolita saw 3 children talking to each other. "Let's go to the woods and find herbs and hummingbirds' eggs," said the boy. He was the biggest. His name was Vincent. "Yes, let's go," said Thomasina. The smallest jumped up and down for joy. And the 3 children went happily off to the woods. And I read that wrong, even though I've read this book a million times. So we're going to go backwards. And I'm going to read that page again. The boys, he was the biggest. His name was Vincent. "Yes, let's go," said Thomasina. And the smallest jumped up and down with joy. The 3 children went happily off to the woods. Don't you like how my eyeballs keep peering over? Eyeball's a really funny word, by the way. It's an eye and a ball. Anyway, I'm not sure you're seeing the pictures, and I just want to make sure it's kind of near the camera. But Lolita went after them with her little box of rotten meat. The children were playing in the woods when Lolita arrived. "Little children," she said with a horrible smile, "come and eat some meat. It's really very good." Lolita put out her black tongue, and the children were afraid. When she opened the box, the little meats jumped out on their own. They were so rotten. "We'd better not eat them," said Vincent, "because then we'll all have a stomachache." "Just you eat them up," said Lolita. And she left the little meats on the ground, and they were running here and there like mice, and they smelled terrible. "Fauci!" said Thomasina, pinching her nose. I actually don't know what Fauci means. Shortly afterwards, you can tell me in the comment section if you know, or email me. Shortly afterwards, Lolita came back. "Did you eat the little meats?" she asked. "Oh, yes, yes," said the children. Do you think they ate the meats for real? You'll find out. I wouldn't. Then again, I'm a vegetarian. Sort of vegan. Anyway. No, there's no pictures on that page. Anyway. Wah, wah. "Little lies," said Lolita. Oh, yes, we ate the little meats," said the children. "All right," said Lolita. "Those little meats could not only run around, but they could also talk. So the ugly old woman called the little meats and asked them, "Have any of you been eaten by these children?" Which is such a hilarious image because they'd be answering if they were from the kids' bellies. "No, no," shouted all the little meats in chorus. "They didn't eat anything, not even half." So Lolita caught hold of the three children. "All right, you're ungrateful. I'm going to cut you up into little pieces." She took them away, and she cut off their heads. She put them in a big cage. The parrot didn't live there anymore, and Lolita was pleased. "These children have no heads," she said, and she hung up the heads in her wardrobe. But the Green Indian arrived and opened Lolita's wardrobe. He wanted to steal her shawl. He saw the three heads of the children crying. "Poor little ones," said the Green Indian. "Where are your bodies?" "They're in the parrot's cage," said Vincent. So the Green Indian stuck on their heads again. However, the Green Indian was stupid, and he didn't know where to stick them. Thomasina had her head stuck to her hand. Just another head story. Well, it's the first in this part 2, but if you listen to part 1, there's like several stories that involve heads. Very fascinating. I know it's a bit gruesome, parents and kids, but so are Grimm's fairy tales and whatever. And kids can take it. The little one had it stuck under his foot, and Vincent had his head stuck on his behind. Poor Vincent. Every time he sat down, his face shouted, "Ah!" "You look all right," said the Green Indian. But he was stupid. The children went home. "What happened?" said their father. But the children were happy in spite of having their heads stuck on in funny places. The next story is called The Nasty Story of the Chamomile Tea. Little Angel was sick. He had flu. His mama shut him up in his room. "Little Angel, don't get out of your bed," said his mama. "Oh no, Mama," said Little Angel. "You think Little Angel's gonna stay in his bed? Would you?" She had hardly gone out when Little Angel jumped out of bed and opened the window. I would have done the same thing, by the way. A lady was passing underneath. Little Angel made pee-pee over her. Yes, he peed out the window. Parents, I warned you. The lady said, it's raining, and she started to run. Little Angel liked this. So Little Angel took some more chamomile tea so he could make more pee-pee. A gentleman passed, and Little Angel made pee-pee again. The gentleman's hat was all wet with pee-pee. I'll hit you, he yelled, very angry. Little Angel hid himself. The gentleman went away, shouting, those people are pigs. Of course, I'm not endorsing peeing on people. Goes without saying. Some of you are probably going to send me angry comments and emails. Look. You don't know to teach your children not to pee on strangers' heads. Or kids, if you don't know by now not to pee on other people's heads, well then, I don't recommend it. Little Angel stayed in bed until the elephant and the horse came. Of course, because why not? They both made pee-pee on Little Angel. The elephant ate Little Angel's bed. The horse got up on the wardrobe and licked all the paint off the wall. Afterwards, he made caca in the chamomile tea. You see, said Elephant. So I guess, I said earlier there were no morals to this book, which I appreciate. I guess there's kind of a moral in this. If you pee on people's heads, a horse and an elephant are going to show up, pee on you, on your bed, lick the paint off the wall, and poop in your tea. You have been warned. Caution. The next story is called, it's only like 2 pages. It's called The Black Story of the White Woman. The white woman wore black. Black was black. She had black pajamas and black soap. All of her things were black. Maybe she's goth. Kids, if you don't know what that means, ask your parents. Parents, if you don't know what that means, look it up. It's cool. I'm sort of goth, but more of a hippie goth. Anyway, all of her things were black. Black as night. Black as coal. But when the woman cried, her tears were blue and green, like little parrots. The woman cried a lot as she played the flute. The white woman, dressed in black, crying and playing her flute. Why do you suppose she was crying? I have no idea. Maybe you do. The story doesn't say, because the story's over. Another thing I like about this book is she leaves things to your dreamy, active imaginations to sort out, or not, what's going on. But my hunch is you might take some of these stories into your dreams.
Flashes our inside here, you know, you get an insight and you know something, you know, but you don't want to say it out loud because you're kind of afraid that it's not going to be really true and it'll spoil the whole thing for you, you know. But when somebody makes you say it, then, and it's true, then it just makes it more beautiful of a thing.
Do you want to go for the more beautiful and say it?
Who are you?
Just me.
Who are you?
What kind of a line do you want?
Don't nothing. He won't answer me because you already know what the insight was.
No,
See?
I don't.
Yes, you do. He won't answer me. He wants me to say it, damn it.
So go.
No.
Say it. Come on. Say it.
Because these guys aren't just doing a regular film. They're doing it for you because it's your idea.
So?
Because you're somebody that knows about stuff like this. And you can sit down and talk to me about it, and that's beautiful. I'm glad that you're doing it. Just hope you get the right stuff out of it for people.
But what's the right stuff?
Well, not that. Well, how many times have you taken it, on a kind of, but the feelings. No, I don't want to hear about, that makes it sound very clinical, like as though, well, if you take it this many times and you're flipped out, and if you take it, it's not that way at all. You can take it once and never have to take it again. But it's not, you already know, so you can, it's nice to go back up there. No, but you never have to take it again. One time is all you need with the right person, or the right people in the right place.
Seen any monsters lately?
Oh, not me. I'm a happy person. See, I can't, it doesn't hurt me. Can't have any monsters.
Medical doctors say you're liable to go psychotic.
I don't know what psychotic means, really, clinically. I don't know. Nervous? Or introverted, or what does it mean?
Off your head.
Oh, really? I really think this is a funny thing, but if all the people that took acid, when the people that I know that have taken acid, we can look out at the other people that haven't, and they can tell us we're crazy, and we can say, well, you haven't seen anything yet, because there are things that are more beautiful.
Last October, in the quiet Mississippi town of Pascagoula, two local men confronted authorities with a rather bizarre story. Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker told of a strange craft landing near their fishing site and of being taken aboard by three unearthly creatures. The two men were questioned under hypnosis and lie detectors, but their story remained intact. One of the men suffered a nervous breakdown and is still under treatment. Among the skeptics were Ralph and Judy Blum, already at work on a UFO book. With W5 last week, Ralph and Judy returned to Pascagoula.
Judy and I stumbled into this book. It came to us to be written. Suddenly we were in a wave of waves. UFOs were being seen across the country again. We were in what they call a flap. And people began experiencing things that they couldn't explain. Something was happening in our skies, in the midst of Watergate, Agnew, the energy crisis, the Middle East. Something was happening, and people couldn't understand what it was. We spoke about UFOs, but nobody really knew. And then it hit right here where we are. It hit Pascagoula. Charlie Hickson entered the news, and we had a book to write.
Something happened October of '73 that would go down in history. The spaceship came with many blue lights, set down near them in the night. Three little men came out and took him inside. They looked him over with one big eye. They say what they saw was the real thing, though there were the ones that saw the passenger UFO.
We were sitting feet, you know, over toward the river, fishing in the river. And the fish still wasn't biting, so I told Calvin, I said, well, you know, we might as well go home. I guess that was when I heard it. It was some kind of zipping sound. And when I turned around, in this area out here, about 40 or 50 feet out there, there was some kind of crab, you know, it was looked like it's going to come out onto the ground. But it came on down and hovered about a foot and a half or 2 feet off of the ground. But we didn't know what to do, you know, like the river behind us and that out there, not knowing what it was. So, and then before we had time to really do anything, it seemed like an open appeared. And toward the end, it was, you know, toward us. And the blue light, it had blue flashing lights as it was, you know, approaching the ground, but then they went out. And when the opening appeared, some source of light came from the inside. It was just almost blinding.
Sheriff Diamond, can you tell me just what happened that night?
No, sir, I can't. All I can tell you is there was 2 men came in the sheriff's department approximately 8:30 and 9 o'clock. They were all excited and upset, wanting to climb the walls, hysterical, crying. That's actually all I know is what happened. As far as me seeing what happened, I don't know.
Of course, we could see them in the opening coming, you know, when they started out to climb.
Did you think it was people coming out at first?
Well, they had I kind of thought it was people at first, you know, off like that. But of course, when they appeared there in front of me, it was the most shock I've ever had in my life.
What did you see?
Well, they were shorter than me. I'd say about 5'2" or 3", and they didn't have a neck. The head seemed to come directly to their shoulder, and they had something that came out to a point about where the nose would be, and on each side the ears. I believe that they looked like they were a little longer, the ears, than the nose.
But still pointing.
They were still pointing, yes.
But since I was down there, and since I was a physician and several other scientists and investigators were asked to consult and look into the situation, I was asked, would I mind if I would be present? And I said I wouldn't mind at all. And while it is still very difficult for us to believe that a spaceship landed and that robot-type creatures came out and actually took these 2 people into the spaceship, these men, in my opinion, believed that they saw this and that they were being honest in reporting what they have reported.
But it seemed to me when they came out that doorway, that opening or whatever it was, then just almost instantly they were right there on us. And their arms, they had arms. I saw the arms moving here and in the shoulders, but they had welt. I mean, their fingers were welt, and they had something like a thumb, and they were like this.
We questioned them at length. And then we left the room and recorded all the conversation they had. Recorded between the 2 of them. And one of them kept on praying. He said, after all I went through on this earth, I said, why should I have to see something like this?
Calvin Parker, I was questioning him, and at one time he wanted to climb the wall. I saw how nervous, how shook up he was.
They had me one on this arm like this, and on the other one, you know, they had my other arm like that. And I just seemed to lift up to the same height they were off the ground, and we just moved into the crowd.
Now inside, how did they lay you out? Do you remember how it happened?
Yes. I didn't see any tables or chairs or anything in there. I'm not saying there wasn't in there because the light was almost blinding, but I didn't see it. And when they carried me inside, they seemed to just lean me by, you know. And this eye, well, I keep referring to it as an eye, and it moved up in front of me about this close. And it started right in my eyes, looking me right in the eye. And it seemed that it hesitated there for a few seconds, and it just started moving over my entire body. When they brought me from the craft, along this area here, and they didn't drop me, you know, they just released me back to the ground. And I fell. I don't know why my legs were weak. I don't know why I was afraid or what it was, but I fell onto the ground. And that's when I seen Calvin. He was standing right over here in this area. He was standing facing the river with his arms outstretched like that, just like he was staring at something.
Tell me about the lie detector test.
Well, so that was run by Pilgrim. Was it Pilgrim?
Pennington.
Pennington.
That they run this type of test about 6 times a day. And when they were asked to come over here to talk to these people, they had in their mind that it was just a big joke. And if I understand it correctly, they ran one test on Mr. Hickson. The machine showed that he was telling the truth. Then they run another one. And then the examiner, he began to wonder himself. So he ran the third test, and he believed just what Mr. Hickson had told him.
Mr. Booth, tell me what happened that night in October.
Well, I got up and had turned off the TV and come to the front door, which you can see right behind me. Just as usual, checking to see if it was locked. So I looked out the window at the top. Naturally, I saw this object above the street light out there. So, as it caught my eye with the lights was on, couldn't hear any racket or anything. So I opened the door after a few seconds to step out and see if I could really tell what it was, and it just took off.
Can you describe it?
Well, it was round, had lights all the way around it, turning in a counter-clockwise motion. It had a dome on top with a bright light shining out through the top of it. To tell the actual figure of it or anything, you couldn't tell. You just see the lights and the one on top.
When it happened to Charlie, the creatures, whatever they were, didn't communicate with him. Now, it's enough to say you saw a UFO to give you trouble these days in some towns. To be taken aboard is just a suspect idea. But somehow, if the creatures don't give you a message, you're just a touch less incredible. And Charlie says what he said and what we wrote about in the book. It was like they had a job to do, and they came and they did it.
I think there has to be a reason why Calvin and me was picked.
Maybe because you could take it?
Well, it might be. I don't know. I think that they know more what's going on down here on this earth than we think. And I don't know, they might have been, you might say, looking for somebody that could, you might say, hold up under this train and convince people that there is another world and there's some kind of life in this world.
They were the one that saw the Pascagoula UFO.
That's our program for this week. W5 will not be seen next week. We're going to repeat CTV's prize-winning inquiry on wiretapping in Canada, Hear No Evil. We'll be back on the 16th of June with a special wrapping up the federal election campaign to that date. On behalf of Carol Taylor and the entire W5 staff, I'm Bruce Phillips. Good night.
Have you seen a dead civil engineer come out of a hurricane, with broken booms, gunwales shot to pieces, crumpled, gasping, coming to grief, and her captain gone all hoarse? Snorting, she puts it in the sunlit wharf, exhausted, licking her wounds while the steam thins in her boilers. With fright in their eyes, the soldiers of salvation beheld from the helmeted observatory tower the heavenly harps, the swaying titanic nebulae, and their chaotic strings of gaseous gold, far off in the boundless crystal of places beyond time where thought and fright can plunge everlastingly through millennia, stirred the gas-like golden bowers of the harps, ever skessing in Sagittarius.
Have you seen a dead civil engineer come out of a hurricane? With broken booms, gunwales shot to pieces, crumpled, gasping, coming to grief, and her captain gone all hoarse. Snorting, she puts it in the sunlit wharf, exhausted, licking her wounds while the steam thins in her boilers. With fright in their eyes, the soldiers of salvation beheld from the helmeted observatory tower the heavenly harps, the swaying titanic nebulae, and their chaotic strings of gaseous gold, far off in the boundless crystal of places beyond time where thought and fright can plunge everlastingly through millennia, stirred the gas-like golden bowers of the harps, ever skessing in Sagittarius.
Be perfect. Make it otherwise. Yesterday is torn in shreds. Lightning's thousand sulfur eyes rip apart the breathing beds. Hear bones crack and pulverize. Doom creeps in on rubber treads. Countless overwrought housewives, minds unraveling like threads, try lipstick shades to tranquilize fears of age and general dreads. Sit tight, be perfect, swat the spies. Don't take faucets for fountainheads. Drink tasty antidotes. Otherwise, you and the werewolf, newlyweds.